Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Star Wars Alliance, your home on the Geek Ultimate Alliance podcast network for any and all things Star Wars. I'm your host, as always, Katie Rentler, and joining me, well, we're going to keep that a little secret for right now, even though if you're on Twitter, you've already seen it. But for now, I'm going to go ahead and hit the podcast paperwork side of things. We will be talking about Rogue One, a new Random House Worlds novel that was announced late last week, I think. And then some more stuff about Andor and everything, but we're going to hit the podcast paperwork. So with that, like I said, Star Wars Alliance is part of the Geek Ultimate Podcast Network. We have 8 shows, 7 days a week. Starting on Sundays, once a month, we have World Science True Believers with Chris. Mondays, we have 2 shows. Slice of Film, which is my other show on the network, airs every other Monday, where we talk about a movie, multiple movies. Whew, out of breath already. Oh my gosh. The opposite show is Ranger Alliance with Clay, Joe, and Jake. Tuesdays is DC Alliance with Travis and Clay. Wednesdays is Superhero Discussions with Travis. Thursdays is Star Wars Alliance with me and typically Clay. Clay had a scheduling issue. He can't be here tonight. But it's okay because I'm not alone. Fridays is Marvel Alliance, and every other Saturday is a walk through the multiverse. Now, 3 of those shows do go live throughout the week and have their own solo feeds. Those shows being DC Alliance, which goes live Monday nights, typically around 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Star Wars Alliance is the next show. You're here. It's 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Wednesdays. And then the final show that goes live throughout the week is Marvel Alliance, typically at 9-10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Now, all 3 of those shows do have their own solo feeds, so you can check those out on their own, or you can stay on the main GUA feed, which has all 8 shows for easy listening needs. Now, oh my gosh, there are 3 ways to support us as a show and, of course, a network as a whole. The first way is via Patreon. We do love our patrons. Thanks for being here. Thanks for the support. But we have 2 tiers. The $5 tier gets y'all ad-free episodes, exclusive episodes, and any early episodes that may drop. The $1 tier helps keep the Kyber Crystals charged on here. So again, we appreciate you all. The second way to support us is by taking 30 seconds to rate and review us on your favorite podcatcher of choice. Now, those ratings, particular reviews, help put us into the feeds of other listeners who may not be following us on social media. If you've reviewed us already, thank you very much. We appreciate it. And then last but certainly not least, this is an ad-supported show, an ad-supported network. I will give you a warning before those ads are to occur, but just so you know now, we don't get to choose who the ads are from, nor how many times you hear the same ad in the same episode, nor how loud they are, so that warning should help you prepare those volume levels. We will be reviewing Rogue One today, which I already see Nathan is in the chat. Mando, Rogue One, then Season 7 of Clone Wars. Top 3 things Disney has done with the franchise, in my opinion. Ooh, interesting. Interesting, Nathan. But with that, I am going to welcome the guest host for today, Rachel, from Followers of the Force podcast. Rachel, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm always down to talk Rogue One. It's literally my entire brand. So,
Well, I'm interested to see what you have to say because, as far as especially what Nathan said, Rogue One, I don't know, I guess I've never really been huge into spy films, but watching it yesterday for the first time in probably 2 years, it's actually changing my mind a little bit and putting it a little bit higher tier for me. But that's a discussion for after we talk about the news. So I'm gonna shut my mouth now because otherwise I'll just keep talking and we'll never get to the news. All right. So first things first, I guess we'll go ahead and talk about Bad Batch. So a lot of people had kind of seen on Disney Plus, in the promotional banners aspect, where Bad Batch was promoted as coming out September 28th, which is only a week after Andor releases now. And with that, people were like, are we sure about that? Does that make a whole lot of sense? And so Disney sent out their September releases, and Bad Batch wasn't on there. So Disney had never confirmed a September 28th release other than the Disney Plus banner. So what do you think about that? Like,
I'm kind of glad because I was worried both. I'm not I like Bad Batch. It's not my favorite series, but I didn't want either animation to get the short staff because there was live action going on, or Andor to get the short staff because Bad Batch was going on, and that's more related to Clone Wars versus this very real show with
right.
a person of color as the lead, which is a very important thing. I think Disney kind of learned from some of their stuff with Marvel when they're having
Miss
multiple
Marvel and
shows
everything.
running at the same time that it can get a little crazy. But yeah, I'm
Yeah.
okay with that. I know my friend Hannah, who y'all have probably seen on Twitter as Besker Kyber, she is probably very angry right now. But y'all didn't want to be near Hannah and I if they were airing at the same time. It was not going to be good. At one point, they were talking that Bad Batch might have overlapped with Kenobi and Andor when people were trying to figure out where to be.
Yeah.
And that Twitter would have just devolved into chaos. It would have not been good. It's spreading them out and we can all watch them together.
I think so as well. And like, I'm really still hoping, especially with She Hulk moving to Thursdays, that we're going to start getting like a Marvel day of the week and a Star Wars day of the week because I feel like they've been trying to do scheduling around each other and realized that that doesn't necessarily work. Because Bad Batch originally aired with Loki, and then Miss Marvel aired with Kenobi, and I think Miss Marvel's numbers dropped immensely. Now, granted, both shows they're somewhat different audiences. Um, so I'm glad that we're hopefully moving in that direction of separate. Um, we'll see what happens. I mean, again, Disney never had confirmed this date. Now they've been wishy-washy with the promo on this anyways because like they had in Star Wars Insider that Bad Batch was going to be a summer show, and I think that's what you were talking about where it was going to air in the summer time frame and this, but it's like we still hadn't we still haven't seen a trailer, which
Yeah.
I think for us to actually actively believe a release date, we're gonna have to see a trailer first. And I imagine we'll get that at D23. I think is the best bet. Along with Tales of the
It's
Jedi.
fairly soon.
Yeah, it's September, the weekend of September 9th, I think.
Somewhere, yeah. I don't know. I've lost track of all dates. I went from C2E2 into the biggest 10 days of the year in my job, so I was just kind of like I'm not really sure what day of the week it is at this point.
That's me too. I traveled 2 weekends in a row, and I'm still like, what day of the week is it? So
Every
I can
other
understand that.
I've traveled every other weekend since mid-July, so I'm just like, and I travel not this weekend, but next weekend. So I'm just like, I don't know what day it is. I don't know what time it is. I'm not really kind of fuzzy on the whole reality thing right now.
No, thank you. Not for me.
No,
All right, so I have Andor next on the list, but I'm gonna save that for the end. I don't know why I ordered it this way. So the next thing to really talk about is something that John Boyega kind of talks about in an interview for his upcoming movie, The Woman King. And he was asked if he would take the opportunity to return to Star Wars at any point, and he gave a different answer really from what he's given in the past. He said, "At this point, I'm good. I think Finn is at a good confirmation point where you can just enjoy him in other things, the games, the animation, but I feel like the sequel trilogy was good for me." So it is a little bit different, but he said like he's talked very closely with like oh my gosh, what is his last name? Daniel from Get Out and like Black Panther and everything, and just kind of talked about like what he wants his portfolio to be as an actor, and is gonna kind of step away from maybe big franchise films. So I think it's a good decision for him. What do you think?
I would love to see more of Finn, but I respect that. I
Yeah,
mean, honestly, Star Wars fans treat minority actors like garbage, and
yeah,
people were terrible to him. And the fact that if he would even consider returning, as a fandom, we need to get our lives together before we ask them to do that. But I would love to see more of Finn. If John wanted to come back in the future, I would be very open to that. But I'm glad that his career is taking off. Like we've seen the same thing with Adam Driver, who really Star Wars.
Yep.
He was a you know a he was on a fairly big show before then, but Star Wars really kind of launched him into superstardom. And then he's chosen to instead do all of these, indie picks and the smaller movies that he wants to do. So hopefully it's given John the freedom to do what he wants to do as well.
I think that is definitely the case because, yeah, I'd love to see more of Finn, like searching for his stormtrooper brothers and sisters, Jedi training, all that good stuff. But I think this is making a really good decision for him, and I think it's something very similar to like you said with Adam Driver. Robert Pattinson did it with Twilight, where he went and did a bunch of indie movies, and now is back in franchises. So I mean, people grow and people go, I think I'd really actually enjoy a return to Star Wars. So we could see it later on down the line. I know Jordan Mason, it was a tweet, I didn't link it, but he said that he had still heard that talks with the sequel actors were still ongoing, but that there had been talks to try and like bring them back together relatively soon. We'll see what happens. I mean, John is having a great 2022. I think Woman King is his second movie of the year, and he still has 2 more coming after it. So excited to see.
I mean, he's just such a great actor. I can't wait to see what he does in other things. And
yeah,
I am pleased that he has called out what Star Wars didn't support him and said that now the fact that they're supporting Moses Ingram more is a great step forward. So
yeah,
I'm excited to see what he does.
Yeah, he did say that. And that was a really good move to just like kind of recognize that, because I think as much as we want like giant steps forward, I think companies are like, oh, we need recognition for every little step forward. And so to do that, I think is going to help Lucasfilm continue to progress. So okay, we'll see what happens.
Yeah, and I can't wait to see where he goes.
Exactly. All right. So the next topic is books. The first one on here, it's really not huge, but I loved Lost Stars. Have you read Lost Stars?
I have not yet. It is on my list, but I actually just met Claudia Gray a couple weeks ago at C2E2. Yeah, I was completely uncool because I'm apparently not a cool person ever. If anybody ever thinks that I'm not. If you've ever watched Lin-Manuel Miranda talk about his personality in interviews where he just has no chill, that's so I basically just blabbered at her about how much I loved all of her books and how much Fallen Star destroyed me, asked for her autograph, asked if she'd sign a book plate for a friend, and then asked if she'd take a picture with me. And then she asked to take my picture with the person I was with because my friend was dressed as Palpatine and I was dressed as Rey. So somewhere on Claudia Gray's phone, there's a picture of me in cosplay, and it just makes my life better. But I have not read Fallen Stars. Is about one of the only Star Wars books she's written. I haven't read that one, and I haven't read Princess of Alderaan yet.
Oh, those are 2 of my favorite. I think Lost Stars is like number 1, but then it's Princess of Alderaan, and then probably Fallen Star, and then Into the Dark. And Master and Apprentice. Master and Apprentice, I think, is above Into the Dark. But I wasn't happy with Master and Apprentice. Completely different conversation. I know, but she's such a good author, and I'm so glad she came to Star Wars. I'm trying to go. I really want to go to Dragon Con and meet Timothy Zahn because he created my favorite character in Star Wars. So,
yeah, it was really cool to meet her and to get to talk to her for a little while because she didn't like that. There was a wrestling person next to her that I almost got in the wrong line for because I don't apparently read very well some days when I'm excited, and I've been running around like a crazy person. I do not apparently have reading comprehension skills. But since she didn't have a line, I could sit and talk to her for a little while, and it was a lot of fun. But yeah, I
It's
would
nice.
love to see. I've heard so many good things about Lost Stars, and I'd love to see more Star Wars. I love that there's standalone books too, but I would love to see more of the stories that connect even through the different eras. Like maybe Lost Stars has a ripple 10 years down the road or something like that.
Ooh. Yeah, because this is what this question, what this is what this topic was about is Lost Stars. At Emerald City Comic Con, Graves asked about a potential sequel to her young adult novel, Lost Stars, and said, "I firmly believe it's going to happen someday. We just have to see what lines up with their publishing schedules. But I hear good things from them. I think it's going to happen." Now, this is the novel that was supposed is supposedly in the works for a television adaptation through Disney Plus. So we'll see what happens. But this one has had it's beloved. It's had manga adaptations. I think one other. Can't think of it off the top of my head. But very Romeo and Juliet esque for Star Wars, which I can appreciate. Um, but yeah, highly recommend if you haven't read that one to jump into it. Um, the next one on the list, we got a book announcement, like a fiction book announcement, that it is not High Republic related, um, for 2023. Sam Maggs, who has written for Star Wars Adventures, which the IDW part of it, not the Dark Horse, um, and wrote the Luke Skywalker story in Stories of Jedi and Sith, will be writing Star Wars Jedi Battle Scars and will be published by Random House Worlds, excuse me, on March 7th, 2023. So are you a Fallen Order person?
I kind of like I have the game. Up until about 3 months ago, I didn't have a PS4. So I had the game because I was living with my ex who had a PS4, and then I never played it before. And then when we broke up, I took the game and didn't have a PS4 of my own. Just finally got one secondhand from someone, and I'm going to start the game, but haven't had a chance to yet. I want to. I feel like it's going to kick my butt 3 ways to Sunday because I'm not good at like I'm okay at video games, but I'm not good at them. My favorite video game is The Legend of Zelda: The Wind Waker, which is like the easiest Zelda game. So
Oh yeah, I
it's
played Ocarina of Time. That one was miserable. Um,
I finally got through that on the 3DS adaptation because I could put the screen this close to my face and figure it out. But no, I feel like I want to play Fallen Order. I've read some of the story of it. I'm probably going to watch some of the cutscenes so I can read the novel. But I'm very excited because I know a lot of people really love it. But I'm always excited to hear the stories expanding between mediums.
Most definitely, because Clay and I have actually talked about this on a previous episode about whether Cal Kestis will actually expand across mediums. And with video games being so niche, and like you want to be able to have sequels to video games, uh, I had basically was like, yeah, he'll appear in other things, but he won't ever be like a main character. And to get this story, it's pretty cool. I've played probably 30% of the game. And gave up because I just found open world games not my thing. So Clay is going to make me watch the cutscenes at some point, but I haven't done that yet either. So I will do that, however, before Battle Scars arrives in March, and that way I can have some context. So very excited for Random House Worlds to publish this, and I'm excited to see what we continue to get book announcement wise from Random House Worlds. Like, I know we have all the announcements for phase 2 of the High Republic, but I'm like, give me more. I come
Yeah.
from the Legends era where Star Wars published 2 novels a year, one in the spring and one in the winter, or fall. And I love having 10 plus novels a year. It's great.
Yeah, I'm still trying to read Princess and the Scoundrel, which I got a month early and still have not finished, which shows you exactly how good at reading I am right now. I have Shadows of the Sith on my Audible and I still haven't. So we're doing great. We're doing fine. It's fine. They're giving me so much content. I can't keep up with it,
I
but that's a great problem to have.
Yes, it is absolutely a great problem to have. I'm a scan reader, so like I read Shadow of the Sith in 2 days. Um, so it's a problem. I had to go back and read it 3 more times.
I
But
usually am, but recently it's just like I can't focus on so I've been doing a lot of stuff with Audible. The craziest one was I had agreed to be on Radio Rebellion about phase one of the High Republic, and I went, okay, I read the 3 adult novels. I read um two of the kids' middle grade books. I can finish, I've got like I'm part of the way through one of the young adult novels. I can read 2.5 books in a month and a half. I'll be fine. A week before, my dumbass went, oh, hey, you haven't read any of those yet. So I'm listening to them on Audible and then, if I'm not on Audible, I'm reading a different one. Got them all done. Went through a lot of emotions in that week, but I got them all done.
that is a lot of emotions. Midnight Horizon is a 500 pages. That's
I finished
impressive.
Midnight Horizon like 2 hours before we recorded, and I got on the stream, and I'm like, I have some feelings I would like to speak about.
Yes, absolutely. Also, I'm sorry, y'all, if you're watching on YouTube. I'm sorry, Rachel. I have not eaten dinner, so I'm eating this cookie, this protein cookie. I'm just taking little snippets, so I'm sorry.
Go for it.
That could be considered rude. The other book that was announced with Battle Scars is The Art of Star Wars Jedi Survivor, which is being published by Dark Horse and will hit shelves May 2nd, 2023. There was not an author attached to those, but I don't think most art of books have an author. I know Amy Ratcliffe wrote a couple, but I did not see an author in the StarWars.com article. Um, so, are you an art of collector? Because I'm not.
I have some of them. I have the Art of Rogue One, and I look at them, but I'm not a huge collector of them. I generally I check them out from the library and look at them. But if I can pick them up for secondhand or when Barnes and Noble has a good sale, I'll pick them up and check them out. They're one of those things I put on my Christmas list, and then everybody goes, "You're a dork," and doesn't buy them for me.
That's what we do here.
Yep.
Um,
I'm more
all
of a
my
visual dictionary reference book person.
I can definitely understand that. My Legends books are all there, and you can't see them, but my canon books are all over here. So I'm a collector of books, but I'm not really a pictures person. So I find them interesting, and I'll read the Wikipedia on them later. Uh, So that one is coming May 2nd, 2023. So do you think these books kind of showcase a potential release window for Star Wars Jedi Survivor?
I would think because I don't think you'd get an art book before you'd get the release, but I also don't think that they would have what was the release date for that one? Was it March or
Random House World was March, and that's showcasing the like in the 5 year window between Fallen Order and Survivor.
yeah, but
So
the yeah, I don't I would say that it's probably going to be after March then. I mean, I think though that they'll make sure that they can build the buzz up to it. But I'd say that, summer next year maybe.
that's what I'm thinking. Maybe the art of book. I can picture the art of book being delayed, especially with how many video games we've had like announced for, and then delays happen. So I picture if the video game ends up being delayed any bit, the art of book will be. I don't picture the fiction book being delayed though. Um, uh, Speaking of The Princess and the Scoundrel earlier, it debuted today on the New York Times bestseller list, number 12 on the list.
I am so excited. Beth has come on my podcast a few times, and she and I are Instagram buddies, and so it's great to see this because it's so good. From what I've only read half of it, but it's so good. Rebel Rising was so good, and Beth is a lovely person who deserves this and the world.
Absolutely, she's great. I have actually not read Rebel Rising. I've heard really good things. We're
It
gonna
is,
read it before Andor comes out.
yeah.
So
That is one of them that I was telling people when Andor was delayed. I'm like, use this time. It's a decent sized book, but it is a YA book. I feel like those go a little faster generally.
Yeah,
But yeah, it's so good.
I'm excited. Um, so congratulations, Beth. And plug, if you have not listened to our review of Princess and Scoundrel yet, scroll back a couple in the feed and find it because it was a really great review. Clay and I had a lot of good conversations about the book. So, continuing with the games trend, going back to it, I guess. The Knights of the Old Republic remake, which we talked about last week, has been, or 2 weeks ago, whatever. I don't know.
What
Losing
is
track of
time?
time. um, the old the Knights of the Old Republic remake, which we had heard to have been infinitely delayed, and then we had heard that it had been shifted to another studio. It has been actually confirmed to have been moved from Asper Media to Saber Interactive. Apparently, some results at Asper weren't great. Um, and Saber Interactive is actually owned by the same company who owns Asper Media, which is Embracer. And Saber was apparently already working on the project, like assisting, and now has been able to fully take over the project. So it's good to kind of see that remake moving forward because I know that means a lot to people. So
I didn't realize this. Apparently, Knights of the Old Republic has an iOS version,
yes,
and I
it
know this
does. It has
because
one into.
my sister, who does not play video games, mind you, she's worse at video games than I am, loves Knights of the Old Republic. I've never really played. I've downloaded it a couple of times and never. I think I'm gonna get the phone version, but my sister loves it and will has the phone version now and will play it at random times. I ask her what she's doing and she goes, "I'm trying to take over the galaxy." I'm like, "I'm sure you are. You're an adult and a high school teacher and you're playing like you're a Sith." Okay. She's like, "Shut up."
Yeah, I never actually read it. Though I did a review of like the making of it. With Alex. He wrote a small book on it, and I got sent an early copy. So that is actually at revengeofthefans.com if anyone's interested. And I know the podcast there did a really great interview for it. But I'll be interested to see how this continues to progress because a lot of people are like, oh, well, we won't see this now until like 2027. And I'm like, oh, very good. Um, So Natasha Liu Bordizzo, who is playing Sabine Wren in Ahsoka, um, has basically she gave an interview during Day Shift um, interviews because Day Shift just recently came out on Netflix, and basically some key points was she was told that Rebels was a recommended watch, but not necessary. How do you feel about that?
I would love to see, I act, I do community theater, but I am one of those actors that has to watch everything and do everything to see a role. But some people can't do that without feeling like they're mimicking something else. So I could see why they might not want her, especially if we figure Ahsoka is, if it's in the Mando era, it's a good 9 years after Rebels. If they
Yeah.
want Sabine to have changed a lot, they might not want to require her to watch it if they worry that it'll lock her into her performance. So I can see why.
That's a good point. I hadn't actually considered that because I know like they had said, oh, Ahsoka's completely standalone. You don't have you need to have watched Rebels to kind of understand it. Um and Clay and I had kind of given them some crap for it because Rebels is such a beloved show. Um but that is a very good point, actually, that I hadn't considered. She did state that she had watched it and kind of explored like spray painting, um, and said Sabine has particularly changed her life in terms of how she approaches things. So that's always a good thing to see. But thanks for that new perspective on
Yeah,
that.
I know. I just know that some people are actors that have to watch everything. I turn into a complete nerd and have to read about whatever my character would be doing. Um, I did a show that was set in 2008, and I made a 2008 playlist, and I unfortunately rediscovered Soldier Boy was a thing. That was minding my own business, driving down the highway. Boom, crank that. Why? But some people can't do that. Like if they watch an iconic performance or an iconic take, they can't deal with the pressure. So I could see why you wouldn't want to require her to do it.
Makes sense. Um, so earlier this week, basically everything that's going to kind of drop on Disney Plus Day kind of came out, and there was a poster, very theatrical looking poster, and it had basically Obi-Wan Kenobi in a desert
Mm-hmm.
looking away from the camera. So it's just like him in a cloak.
Mm-hmm.
And everyone was like, oh my gosh, they're announcing season 2 before Disney Plus Day. Oh my gosh, we're going to get so much information. And then everyone's like, oh, it's called Jedi's Return, a documentary on the making of Obi-Wan Kenobi.
I mean, we've gotten them for like almost every other show. Did we ever get one for? We got one for Book of Boba Fett, right?
Yeah, we did. But they have been entitled. They have been entitled Disney Galleries, like the making of. So it's
Yeah,
never was like Star Wars specific.
yeah. I love that this is because it sounds like it's more of like a full documentary about instead of like the episodic. But I don't know. I think I just scrolled to the poster and it's pretty cool where you see Obi-Wan and then in the background's a film crew. It's pretty
Yeah,
cool.
because if you take a closer look at it, it's that. But yeah, it was interesting to see Twitter's reaction. And Snell even was like, "Damn it, I thought this was a season 2 announcement." It's kind of funny. Um, so it will drop on Disney Plus Day, and it's kind of a sarcastic comment that I put in the show notes. But I said, fitting this will drop when a behind the scenes sneak peek was all we got for Star Wars last year on Disney Plus Day.
To be fair, I also felt like last year on Disney Plus Day, at that point, Disney's like, y'all gonna leak stuff? If you're gonna leak stuff, I ain't gonna give you anything.
that, that that's very true because I think because Bordizzo stated in the interview that she didn't realize that they were going to announce that she was Sabine already at Star Wars Celebration and like officially confirm it. She thought they were gonna let the show drop and just let everybody else find out from there.
Oh,
So
goodness.
very
Disney just is like,
um
it's like Disney occasionally goes, you know what would be fun on a Tuesday? I'm gonna drop something and watch the Star Wars fans go nuts.
it was the same thing with like Amanda being announced randomly at Comic Con, and like there was a High Republic panel and I think a publishing panel, but like there was no other Star Wars stuff there, and they just dropped. Oh yeah, Amanda will be the star of Acolyte. It was just like
I
okay.
just I loved I was at the panel with Moses Ingram and Rupert Friend at C2E2, which was Vivia Lyra Blair's first panel. She came in and she is adorably
Oh,
delightful. She is delightful, and I would protect this child with my life. But in the middle of the panel, somebody asked Moses Ingram about if she'd join Marvel, and she goes, "Okay, got a big announcement," and everybody shut up and was waiting. And she waited until the room was silent. She goes, "Okay, y'all, tell Marvel to hire me," and I'm like, "Yes."
that was that would have been epic.
Queen shit.
um,
Queen shit right there.
um, I was thinking for Vivian Lyra Blair, she made such the perfect princess Princess Leia. I really want them to kind of lock her into a contract and do an adaptation of like Princess Leia of Alderaan. I think that would be epic because that book is just so great. But also you could just expand on that and just make like young Princess Leia explores politics or whatever. I don't know. Anyways,
I just want young princess. I just want her and God,
Lola.
Lola and God, I just lost the actor's name who plays Bale.
Hmm.
Jimmy Smits. Just her and Jimmy Smits doing dad daughter stuff for a couple hours. That's all I need.
And even Baru. Like Baru was
Oh yeah,
great.
she was.
So
Everybody was great.
yeah.
I like where Obi-Wan ended. I don't think we need another season. It was a limited series, but if they want to literally show me the adventures of all of these, like if they want to show me Obi-Wan meditating in the desert for 6 hours, I will sit in front of my computer screen and watch it.
I can completely understand that, especially with Liam when Liam Neeson popped back in. I was like, oh, okay, I could watch you and Liam all day. Thank you very much.
My sister was writing a script treatment, not like a full script treatment. She was texting me her dumbest ideas for season 2. She's like, okay, so now it's Obi-Wan's going through life. And Qui-Gon's there with him, talking to him the whole time, but only Obi-Wan can see Qui-Gon.
And you just get snappy comebacks back and
And
forth
so
like, Master, I know.
this is why everybody on Tatooine thinks that old Ben is crazy, because he's been talking to somebody that they can't see.
Oh my gosh. Yes.
I'm like, please write this. I need this.
Oh, that's great. Um, okay, switching to Andor. Um, so we kind of have a lot. It's just kind of like the interviews going on. And Star Wars News Net, which we get all of our news from regularly, has all of these interviews beautifully typed up and like key quotes and everything to pull from. So I'm going to go over highlights, but if you're interested in reading more on the specific topics, make sure you go check them out and just read them. So, oh, Rachel? Technical difficulties? Potentially? Um, please hold. Ah, okay. Welcome back.
Hi, I am the worst. Sorry, I was trying to do look at the Google Doc that you sent me, and I closed the wrong window.
You're good. I was like, I wrote that down on my show notes because I gotta send this to Clay after this, and it was like weird. Rachel dropped. I don't know. So cool. Welcome back.
Sorry.
Um, you're good. So, first up, Tony Gilroy explains how Andor went from 5 seasons to 2. And, basically the summary is they decided it would take too long. Diego Luna would be 65 and Gilroy would be in a nursing home, is what he said.
I mean, if they did like one season a year, I mean, I guess Diego Luna would be 45 playing 26 when we got to the Rogue One bit. But I get it, but I still want more. But if they're going to do 2 really good seasons, I can live with this.
I think so, and especially considering it's 2 12-episode seasons, I think that's just a really good way to break it up while also still having fresh content later on. And I think as much as Gilroy goes on later to say this is a condensed show, after 24 episodes, the storylines will be done, concluded. You don't have to worry about them any longer. I think you could still go, hey, I want to do more with Mon Mothma.
Mm-hmm.
I want to do more with Blix, who is the female star of the show. I think is it Adria? I think it's Adria. Anyways, I'm gonna just move along. So some other things from this interview, he said that the last 3-episode arc of season 2 ends 5 days before Rogue One. and that the last scene will be Cassian Andor getting on the ship to go to, oh my gosh, what's the place? The Rings of, what did you say?
Rings of Catherine.
Gotcha. The Rings of Catherine to go talk to the informants
Who he
and
then
who
brutally
he ends up
murders.
killing. Yes. Ends up brutally murdered. Yes.
It's fine. It's fine. It's fine.
It's totally fine. He said that there is 1,500 pages of scripts for both seasons, with 200 individual characters who all have speaking parts, and that this show is about the little people of Star Wars.
I can believe it. My friends and I'll probably mention, I would mention this when we talked about Rogue One anyway. We do a reading of Rogue One every year for my birthday because I'm a massive nerd and this is my favorite movie. But even if I condense down like the stormtroopers and combine some roles and stuff, there are 93 speaking parts in the slightly simplified version of Rogue One we use. So I can imagine easily over 200 in a 12 episode seasons.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know he said the 200 people is solely for season 1. He didn't even talk about season 2. So I imagine that expands, especially considering season 2 takes place over 4 years.
I can definitely imagine because like you don't realize how many people say like a couple or like people you pass, especially like a show like Rogue One is so many different locations.
Yeah. Especially with how much Random House Worlds has done with the From a Certain Point of View books. It just kind of shows you how many people are there on the sidelines to kind of in these films. So there was a 6-day writer's room for season 1, and there was an 8-day writer's room for season 2, and now these were just okay, we have the scripts, we need to edit the scripts. So it wasn't even let's talk about theories. Tony Gilroy basically came in each day with 100 pages of script and was like, okay, let's go. So brutal days, I bet. I hope they got paid well.
There's a lot of coffee involved.
And Gilroy stated, Star Wars is growing in ways that it can allow itself to have different expressions. We're not part of a saga that doesn't end. Our end is clear. It's as clear as an end can be. And that's kind of talking about how all storylines for Andor will end with the 12th episode of season 2. But that Star Wars is still there. This is allowed to be your entry point into the franchise. And that's what he's writing it for. Going into a different interview, where Gilroy, I don't know if it's a different interview, but it's a different page on Star Wars Newsnet. Gilroy talks about how the structure for season 2 is perfect for television. And it basically is kind of we have 4 blocks of 3 episodes for season 2, and each block will move you 1 year closer to Rogue One. And because it's a year each time, we can do something really fascinating narratively. Oh my gosh, I can't read. That you would never have the chance to do in a film. It's exciting. And basically he goes on to talk about how the first block takes place over 2 to 3 days, and then the second block will take place over 3 weeks. And then the final block is hours. So it's a cool thing to see. I would kind of disagree you couldn't do that necessarily over a film by splitting it into parts. We've seen weirder things happen in film. However, I do agree, it's probably best to, but still. There was a new image released with Catherine Hunter and Kyle Soller in it. Kyle Soller plays Cyril Karn, and we don't know a whole lot about him, but Soller is listed by Lucasfilm as one of the lead actors of the show. So his role should be fairly large. And Catherine Hunter is Edie Karn, an ISB officer who has a possessive obsession with Cassian Andor.
Don't we all? Really interesting. Don't we all?
Yeah, yes. Hopefully my husband isn't listening in the other room. Solar said about about his character's relationship with his mother. He said he doesn't have a father. He was raised by his mother, who is sort of the stage mother from hell. He has an extreme sense of need to impress and fill a hole in himself. And so that really is about ascending to the top of whatever field he's in. And I like how he says whatever field instead of like proclaiming rebel or imperial to kind of like keep the character generic. The field he's chosen is one of restriction and complete control and one of domination. I think we've been able to thread that through with the scenes that Cyril has with his mother. What do you think about that?
I am really intrigued because Star Wars has so far usually been stories of dads. Like
I
think
know, especially
Mando,
recently.
yeah, all of that. It's kind of interesting to see. I mean, of course, we're going to get an evil mother instead of like a good mother, but it's interesting to see that, and it's interesting to think of how that dynamic might roll into other interactions. Everything I read about this show makes me so excited, and there's not a possibility for me to be any more excited than I was. I almost died the day they told me that it was pushed back 3 weeks. I thought I was not going to make it.
You weren't the only one. Because I was like, what am I going to do? Now I have to fill 3 weeks of showtime.
Same. Luckily, we skipped a week recording because we're just like can't do it this week, so we might have the time
um, Solar has a high regard for Gilroy, and he stated that Tony wrote this incredible tapestry of life. It's really Dickensian in its scope and its achievement. I'm only, of course, speaking from Cyril's trajectory, but he then brings it down to incredibly personal, incredibly small domesticity, and almost turning it into a interplay. And it's nothing I've sort of seen in a Star Wars movie before. The combination of the action and mystery and intrigue, and then you have these incredibly unique personal stories coming through. It's good to hear about the scripts. I love when Star Wars just dives in on characters and chooses to kind of stick with that instead of shooting for more action or anything. So,
I'm
excuse me.
excited to hear it described as Pintor because Pintor is a playwright that does do intensely personal stories, and also it's
Okay.
the tension is ramped up. Pintor is known for his use of pauses. So like you can be doing
Yeah.
scenes and like half of the scene is actually in the pauses and silence and how people react to what's not being said. So that's really cool and really intriguing for a spy show.
Ooh, okay. That's interesting.
Yeah.
I hadn't kind of like thought in that direction. I didn't know what Pinterian was, is I guess what I more meant
I
to say. So
I went to school for theater. So Pintor also does strange things with time. One of his most famous plays, Betrayal, is about a husband, wife, and the man the wife's having the affair with. But it's shown starting at the breakup of the affair, then the next scene moves back in time. And then so the fact that they are moving forward in time like they are, really, really is good to see that they're going this intense direction. So I think that they got a plan and it's going to be good.
okay, that could be
Sorry,
cool. I
I wanted to
know.
know about Pintor.
No, you're good. It's a good knowledge learning experience because it's really interesting to me. Um, but I know Gilroy has stated that the 3 episodes are really going to cover like Andor being 6 years old and kind of his his discovery there, and that the first 3 episodes are going to kind of take place during the Clone Wars and some of the battles there. So it'll be interesting to kind of see how that plays forward in the timing that you're talking about. So, the last quote from Gilroy, and this came out today and kind of caught wind because of fan service. Um, However, I'm going to just read the quote in its entirety. And he said, I wanted to do it about real people. They've made all this IP about the royal family in essence. It's been great, but there's a billion other beings in the galaxy. There's plumbers and cosmeticians, journalists. What are their lives like? The revolution is affecting them just as much as anybody else. Why not use the Star Wars canon as a host organism for absolutely realistic, passionate, dramatic storytelling? And then the article kind of goes on to talk about how like Mon Mothma, Saw Gerrera, and Bail Organa will be present, and then stated, as for any other legacy characters who may pop up in season 1, they are, Gilroy says, never fan service. It's never cynical, he continues. It's always meant to be there. It's always protein. It's never icing. And so a lot of people were like, what's wrong with fan service? There's nothing wrong with that. And to that, I state, it's exactly what he says. To me, Luke Skywalker appearing in Mandalorian season 2 was never, like, it's a little fan servicey if you look at like the grandeur of it, but it makes sense for the timeline it's in. As long as it makes sense, then it's protein. It's not sugarcoating it, icing, whatever you want to call it. What do you think?
I think the same thing. I mean, if we had in like Obi-Wan Kenobi, if we just had, somebody wander through a frame and, hand Obi-Wan something that's, one of the clones we know, something like that, it would have been fan service. But the characters we had with Leia being so entwined in it and all that, and if seeing R2-D2 in Obi-Wan, it was in a context that we'd expect to see him in with the royal family. It wasn't like, all of a sudden R2-D2 pops out of nowhere. Actually, any fan servicey, the most fan servicey cameo recently that I can actually think of is actually going to be discussed later in our episode. So,
oh, did I not write that down? I think I know which part you're talking about, but maybe it's another part. So y'all, I'm gonna write down this ad time for Clay, so that he can mark it later, and put an ad here because we appreciate it. So now we will transition into kind of talking about, I was about to say Andor. We're going to talk about Rogue One. We did not get screeners for Andor, though we are trying. But let's talk about Rogue One.
I want to know how to be that famous. Like, seriously, somebody hire me.
Right? I need that. If you find out, will you let me know? All right. So, Rogue One, for those who are unaware, is the first Star Wars story movie that Disney put out. It was the first technically considered outside of the Skywalker saga, not in like the episodic. It's just its own one-off story, which granted not one-off now because of Andor, but that was the original definition, was one-off stories that they can just kind of tell. And it is probably the most popular film that Disney has put out.
If anybody hasn't met my Twitter brand, my Twitter handle is Built on Stardust, and Rogue One is my all-time favorite movie. So, hello, welcome. Sit down, get a snack. We might be here for a while.
Yeah, that's fine. I know I told you an hour and a half, but we can go longer. As long as it's not like 2 hours is a sweet spot. Like, once it's there, it's like, okay, we gotta wrap.
No, I won't do that to you. I did once, though, if anybody wants to hear my 3-hour views on Rogue One, Large Review of the Force and I did a 3-hour episode on Rogue One, and his wife is one of the co-hosts on Followers of the Force, and she might have yelled at me for a while because she's like, I fell asleep waiting for him to, like, finish your episode. I'm like,
Meg said that?
I'm like, Meg, you knew what was gonna happen. And she went, yeah, I did. She goes, I was slightly annoyed, but not at all surprised. I'm like,
if you will send me the link to that episode, I'll have Clay link it down below. But I'm not gonna kind of like, I don't want to do a plot summary. Because basically the plot is find manufacturer of Death Star manufacturer guy dies. prevent, like, get Death Star plans, send to rebellion. A lot of people die. There's your plot summary.
When you put it like that, seems a lot simpler than it seemed during the movie.
It is very simplified, but I think there's better things to discuss than a plot summary.
Yeah, that's
So, um, okay, just going ahead and getting this out of the way. The fan servicey moments, I guess.
yes.
I would
Darth
consider
Vader
that
did not
Darth
need
Vader.
to be in this movie, but
Thank you.
but this is the most fan servicey thing I think Disney has done. I mean, I'm sure there's a couple others. My views on the rise of Skywalker and some of the stuff in that could be a whole nother episode that we don't have time for. But Darth Vader did not need to be in this movie. But
Thank you.
Darth Vader's scenes in this movie are fantastic, and I don't care that they're there. I only care when people are like, "Oh yeah, no, the hallway scene is the best part of Rogue One," and I'm like, "Did you watch
Yes.
Rogue One?" But no. First of all, the fact that he does nothing but just completely mess up Krennic's day and then drop a bad pun is the most Anakin Skywalker thing ever.
Yes. Facts.
I think it was when I was talking to Large Review of the Force said he literally got out of the Bacta tank just to make fun of a man for 2 minutes, drop a pun, choke him, and leave. He was just like, nope, this is my whole schedule for the day. And it is the most Anakin Skywalker thing ever. And the
Yes.
absolute brutality of Vader at the end is something important for us to see going into the New Hope. But did it need to be in this movie? Does it have anything to do with the plot of this movie? No, it does not. That is more fan service. Thank you. This has been my TED Talk. You may find me on Twitter.
Thank you. I completely agree. She said it way better than I could have said it, y'all. The only other thing that I guess would be relatively fan servicey is C3PO and R2D2's appearance in this.
I loved though that one for me, it is a little fan service, but I loved that they kind of just tied it right back in just a little bit into New Hope. Also, I scream every time R2D2 shows up in something because I love R2D2. I was more excited to see R2D2 in the end of Mando season 2 than I was to see Luke Skywalker. I'm like, oh god, it's the drama boy again. Oh my god, it's my droid.
I was sitting there during Mando season 2 and was like, oh my gosh, they cannot be doing Luke Skywalker right now. Are you serious? And then I saw R2D2 and I was like, R2! Oh wait, it's Luke Skywalker actually, huh? That was my reaction. I think, again, it's very similar to what Gilroy said. I think it all kind of makes sense for Vader and C3PO and R2D2 to be included in this. Was it necessary? Probably not. Vader was definitely not necessary in my opinion. It definitely, I think, detracts from the rest of the film, and kind of makes it like, well, you were just having a lot of production issues and tried to like cover it up with Vader scenes, is what you're telling me. So it was a little disappointing, but I can definitely kind of see looking between Obi-Wan Kenobi and this, where James Earl Jones actually voiced Darth Vader in this, right?
Yes, Kenobi was kind of programmed, and they basically
Right.
fed it down.
And I just wanted to kind of like point out, I think the programming, while I hate that concept, it actually worked. It worked out because you can kind of tell with James Earl Jones' voice here is that he's kind of aged. It's definitely different from the Vader we get in the original trilogy. So I hate saying this, but I can kind of see why Disney chose to do the programming voice.
Yeah. I will say some things that is kind of cool to see. I wouldn't put them in the fan service category more as, I mean, I guess an Easter egg in the Disney version of an Easter egg where you like see little, think the Pixar movies where you'll see, like Nemo and another movie, that kind of thing. Is seeing Chopper run across the back at one point, hearing them call for General Syndulla, and you can catch, if you look real quick in one shot, you can catch the ghost.
Yes, I would agree. Those are really good Easter eggs. I wouldn't, yeah, like you said, I wouldn't consider them fan service, but they're still very good Easter eggs because the average person who doesn't, at this point, didn't watch TV shows because all the TV shows were animation and people had things about animation, those people wouldn't catch it. So, but people
Meanwhile,
would notice Darth Vader now.
my friends who love Rebels and had finally rewatched Rogue One, I got sent a ton of screenshots one day. Look what I found! I'm like, oh yeah, that's been there. But yeah, that's my view. Is if you think the Darth Vader scene is the best scene in Rogue One, watch Rogue One without thinking about Darth Vader for a while and listen to the rest of it. But still, it is a really good. The music makes that scene. I love Michael Giacchino's music. The reason I was telling Katie before we started, I just bought a record player because somebody bought me the special edition Rogue One final soundtrack, and so now I need something to play it on. But yeah, I love the score. It's fantastic, especially in that scene.
Absolutely. So I guess kind of another move in that legacy direction was Tarkin and Leia. What did you think of, like, I guess the CGI?
So my fun fact about me is apparently I don't have an uncanny valley. Do not follow me when the pod people take over. We will all be dying, because I didn't notice a thing off about Tarkin's face the first like 6 times I watched this movie.
Yeah.
Seemed totally normal to me. I apparently don't have an uncanny valley. Watching it now on like a more high definition screen or a bigger screen, I can see it being a little wooden, but altogether I feel like it works. And I like that they included him, even if, it might have been better to recast or whatever chose to do. But I do think that it's good that Tarkin was, because at first you just see his reflection and you think that's all you're going to get of Tarkin. Yeah. But I love that idea of the infighting in the Empire. It's the same thing as I love with Kylo and Hux. When you're like, the First Order is not going to be taken down by the Resistance. It's going to be taken down by these people. But I love that they brought him back. And to me, the CGI is not that bad. But again, I don't have an uncanny valley. Leia coming in at the end, perfect CGI to me. And I can't say too much about it because I cry like a baby every time I watch that scene. Just absolute sobs. The first time I saw Rogue One in theaters before Carrie passed away, the first time I saw that scene after Carrie passed away, I was a mess.
I have to agree with you there. I did not notice that anything was wrong with it. And obviously, like, I knew both of them were dead. Or Carrie wasn't dead at this point, excuse me.
But Carrie wasn't 19 anymore.
Yeah, Carrie's not 19 anymore. So there was no, like, bringing that back out of it. And then I knew the Tarkin actor. I can't think of his name. Oh my gosh.
Peter Cushing.
Peter Cushing. Thank you. Oh my gosh. That's embarrassing because I really love Peter Cushing. But I knew he was dead. But you're like even this time around, I was like, Tarkin looks fine to me. Like Leia's the only one that kind of like looks a little janky, and I think it's kind of like in the eyes. I think is where it gets me.
I wouldn't know. Like, I can't see it. I'm too busy crying.
No, so I think Tarkin's fine, and the voice is a little weird, but the CGI looks good to me. And I talk about this all the time on Slice of Film. I'm not the best at CGI. I don't have an uncanny valley, so it takes a lot for me to notice bad CGI.
Oh, good. It's good to know that somebody else will also be dying when the pod people come.
Together!
All of my friends are like, oh my God, it's so, you can't tell it's creepy. I'm like, no, it looks fun. I mean, and I was raised on what I think is some of the best CGI, which is still from the early 2000s, and that's the Pirates of the Caribbean CGI.
Yep.
Some of the best CGI you'll see. And to me, this, I mean, obviously, this is never going to be as good as what they did to make Davy Jones because that's just amazing.
Yeah.
But I mean, even the fact that I'm a fan of that level of CGI, it doesn't register as that bad for me. At least it's not bad enough to ruin my enjoyment of the movie.
Yeah. Absolutely. I completely agree. So I guess, do you want to take the lead in kind of talking about some of your favorite scenes?
Um, First of all, again, I love the entire movie, but honestly, even more so than scenes in this movie are some of my favorite bits of the script and the quotes. Sorry, you might hear a beep. I'm trying to get my laptop to charge. It's being a real pain in the butt about it too. Um, I think that the entire theme of the movie can be summed up in the rebellions are built on hope quote. Obviously,
Absolutely.
what's my screen name? Um, and that idea of, we don't know that this is going to work. All we have is hope, and that's what we're building everything off of is just this hope. Um, I think that scene where Jin gives that speech to the council is probably my favorite scene in the movie. The idea of what chance do we have? The question is what choice? And that really sums up a lot of not only Star Wars, but of situations in regular life.
Yeah.
Do we know that we're going to win? No, we don't. I actually themed a full fundraiser after that quote because of the idea that we can't change U.S. politics, but we don't have a choice. We have to do the right thing. And
Yeah.
that scene in front of the council with her speech and everyone else's reactions and going through, and it leads so beautifully right into Cassian's speech back to her about what the rebellion has been. It's not these heroes in orange flight suits. There's a lot of people behind the scenes who have committed a lot of murders and a lot of dirty acts and assassins, people who have sabotaged things. You think about that,
Yeah.
and that's what we're going to see in Andor is exactly what the rebellion did to get to the point they're at. And just those two viewpoints of the person who has found their hope again and the person who realizes what he did to get to this point but has to go in, who has to disobey orders and go in with a criminal basically. I just think it's
Yeah.
such a gorgeous scene.
I think so too, and I love how much of an emphasis that they put on hope.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it really works out, though. I guess I wasn't gonna bring this up quite as early, but like one of the lines is when Saw Gerrera is about to die on Jeddah, and he says, "Save the rebellion, save the dream." I really wish that would have been changed out for something to do with hope. I think "Save the Dream's" a little cheesy there. And I just wish like you kind of like kept going with the theme. What do you
However,
think?
when Forrest Whitaker yells it, no matter what, it doesn't matter that it's cheesy. You're gonna because they got Forrest Whitaker in a Star Wars movie. And from the looks of the Andor preview, they got him back for television too.
Yes.
No, I will say
Yes. It really impressed with that. Anyway, so
the emphasis on hope is a huge thing for me. Actually, I don't know if you can read off it. I have the word hope tattooed in my grandma's handwriting on my wrist. But that idea of that's all we have is what we have to hold on to, and you get that idea through. I mean, the first it ties so beautifully into what when it wasn't Star Wars anymore when they had to give a subtitle to episode 4, it's a
yeah.
new hope, you know and it even ties into the next year after Rogue One was released, those quotes about hope in The Last Jedi with hope is like the sun. And it's such, if Star Wars was summed up in one word, I think it's hope.
Yeah. I think so as well because it's just all about finding that little spark. And I read Star Wars 26 this afternoon, and you kind of like you see it's Imperial Day, and the rebels jump in on Balreth, and they're able to do some damage, televised damage, and then escape back to the system they're in because they don't have a base currently. Um, but they get back, and Luke's like, "Oh, I want to go read," and then all of the pilots are like,
Weird.
bring it out," and they're talking about the lightsaber, and one of the pilots says, "Well, seeing that light just makes me think we can do anything, we can win anything," and it's just all about those little things that kind of get you to that last point that is like, we can do this, we can totally do this.
We'll
So,
take the next chance and the next.
mm-hmm.
There's just so many. It's hard to pick good scenes in this movie because I think it's all a great movie. But in general, even going smaller than scenes, like the same idea as I said with lines, is the cinematography of this movie.
Yeah.
Movie is beautifully shot. Actually, the same cinematographer did this movie as did the Batman, which is also very beautifully shot.
Yes.
And of course, I'm just like, just make me pretty pictures and put a Michael Giacchino score over it. Yes, just into my eyeballs and ear holes.
Please.
Let's just
No,
beam it directly into my brain. But just some of the shots, even that final shot, which is, the gif that everybody talks about. What's the saddest ending to a movie? And they put the gif of Jin and Cassian hugging on the beach. It's a
yeah.
beautiful, beautiful shot, a beautiful scene, beautiful music over it. And I still can't see it because my eyes are swollen from crying. I sobbed throughout like 98% of this movie. I am the world's biggest, I'm an activist, so I'm the world's biggest sap for this movie because of what it says about hope and your rebellion and what you're working towards. Biggest sap for this movie. I also, in favorite scenes, the fact that this movie, as much as it is a very, very dark movie, like we know war is in the title, but they're really showing us the like ground level war in this
Mm-hmm.
case. But it's also a very funny movie. Obviously,
Yeah.
K2SO is hysterical always, but even just some of the
Yes.
quips back and forth, really gets that camaraderie. I think about like when you watch Aliens with the troop of Marines that have, even in a stressful situation, the little digs to and from each other, and it gives you that idea as this team is bonding. Between
Yep.
base and spirit, the Force protected me, I protected you. Um, but even some of the throwaway stuff, not even K2SO, but he's blind. Is he deaf? All of that. I think it breaks the tension just as much as you need to.
Exactly. And I think, like, and a lot of people can go, "Oh, well, K2 shouldn't have necessarily had that bond with Jen, because they've only been together for 48 hours,
Mhm.
maybe." But you just kind of see it, and she treats him with respect, and then like it kind of gives him the same respect back. So, and that's saying a lot, especially for him being like an Imperial security droid.
Mhm.
He's probably not used to that at all, and so like I'm not typically a crier for movies, but when Jin hands K2SO the blaster, um, like in their last scene together, I was like, that really got me this time around. Um, and like you continue to surprise me, Jen. So I'm like, oh my gosh, that got me chills.
Yeah, mine is I usually have stopped whatever snot crying I was doing before, and we start the like 20-minute gauntlet of it, starting from the time K2 says locking the vault door goodbye, and I'm like,
Yep.
and it's on. It is on. I'm
Yep.
gonna just snot through this movie. I think I managed to usually like get it under like Jen and Cassian die. I get myself together, and then Leia says hope, and we're gone again. I'm like, I can't with this movie. But yeah, just the bonds between the people that even how like because they all don't like how quickly Chirrut can sense that Jin's a good person and trusts her, and Cassian's like, what?
How do you
And
know?
then
How do you know?
and like how quickly Jin and Bodhi like sense each
Yeah.
other out and respect each other. It's really the kind of bonds that only happen in situations like this of war and where you have to choose who you trust or you die. And
Yeah.
it's just those bonds between those characters and how it's I love how diverse and multicultural the cast is. My only complaint is the
Yeah.
fact that Jin is the only leading woman. I mean, you have the senators and Mon Mothma, but the secondary female lead is Mon Mothma, if anything. I
Yeah.
would have loved if more of the, K2 could have been female and it wouldn't have
Female
been.
personified.
Yeah. But then we would have had him competing with L3 as the best sassy feminist droid. And L3 is if my consciousness is ever uploaded into a robot, I hope it's L3 because that's just like my level. It's what's going through my head. It may not always come out of my mouth, but it's going through my head. So is K2, to be honest.
Yeah. Yes. I was gonna say something about from a certain point of view with like the L3 story, but that would get me on a totally different topic because yes, I love L3. And so there's anyways, I'm gonna shut up now before I get started because it will happen.
Future podcast, feminist droid theory.
um so okay. So for me, I like Mads Mikkelsen being in this movie.
I love him.
Like
Um, I
I
love his
love
daughter.
Matt. Yeah, I love Mads so much, but I I think he's wasted here. I wish it was somebody else so that we could have had Mads somewhere else. I guess.
I could see that. I just think that he plays what could easily be a throwaway role very, very well. And you need
Yes.
that because you need that at Galen because if Galen and Jin and Galen doesn't sell his side of things with Krennic,
Hmm.
it's not gonna. I mean, I would love Mads Mikkelsen and Ben Mendelsohn to come back and do a screen adaptation of Catalyst. I would watch it. I would pay
Yes.
so much money for it. I don't think it'll happen, but girl can dream. Um,
Well, I think Ben could potentially come back for Thrawn things.
he could.
So,
He could.
because he's in
Just
treason.
haven't read the Thrawn novel. Sorry.
You're good. They're not as good as the Heir to the Empire ones, I think.
Yeah.
That's just my Legends perspective coming through. But yes, I really enjoyed Treason. So Krennic is in Treason.
Yeah.
I won't tell you why, but he's there.
But yeah,
Um,
just needing that. Before this, okay, so I only really became a Star Wars fan with Force Awakens. Okay, so
okay.
that's my Star Wars confession. I watched almost all the other movies. I'd seen Phantom Menace, New Hope, and thought they were good, whatever. And then saw Force Awakens and got obsessed. So this is still like a year into my obsession, but I didn't have time to follow everything in this movie. I was taking the GRE, I was applying to grad schools, and I was moving. So I knew almost nothing about this movie walking in. And Mads Mikkelsen came on screen, and I think I elbowed my boyfriend at the time and went, "That's Lashif." And he went, "What?" I go, "He was in Casino Royale, which is another one of my favorite movies." And that was my first thing was I have very few superpowers. One of them is my ability to go, "Yeah, that guy was a Bond villain." And it was only with the Daniel Craig movies because those were the only ones I saw. But no, now I have seen all 24 James Bond, 25 now, James Bond movies. Thank you, COVID lockdown. So now I can pretty much walk into a being and they're like, that's a Bond villain. My brother and I walked into the fifth Pirates of the Caribbean movie and the ghost pirate came on screen and we looked at each other and went, Skyfall. So superpowers, I have them. They're just not very good ones. But yeah, it's just so great to see him in a different kind of role in this movie, so you can really see his range. But I agree that I wish we could have had him in a bigger role. But I think that like having a very solid Galen was so important.
Yes, I do agree that he did the role a lot of justice. I was trying to figure this out because I remember talking about this. Okay, so Mads Mikkelsen, he was in he was in Doctor Strange and Rogue One in the same year. I think Doctor Strange was May, and then Rogue One was Christmas.
Is that when Doctor Strange came out? I don't remember
Doctor
when yeah, okay, it came out in 2016. Cool. I don't
Doctor Strange was November. Excuse me. So was Rogue One May?
No, Rogue One was December.
That's what I
So
thought. Okay, yeah.
back to back. Um, I'm not a huge Marvel fan. I've seen some of them. I've seen Doctor Strange and liked it, but so I wouldn't have recognized him from there. I didn't see Doctor Strange till a couple years later. My sister made me watch it when we'd been drinking. Don't watch that movie if you've been drinking. Will mess with your head, man. But yeah. So those are my very roundabout thoughts on favorite scenes.
I think a lot of those are mine as well. I'm trying to think. I really love Jin's speech. I think it brings a lot of hope in. I love Chirrut. Oh my gosh. I think it's Chirrut. Donnie Yen is just great. And I love that I am one with the force is with me. I love that has been carried through different media iterations. I think that just shows the power of this movie, but it kind of shows the history of how well Star Wars can kind of tie everything in together. I know a lot of people give like there's some crap thrown around about how the story group was like needs to manage canon better and everything, but I think they're doing a pretty good job for how many forms of media they have to maintain and making sure that
I imagine the story group is like, you know, that SpongeBob episode where he's searching for something in his brain and there's fires everywhere and 500. That's the Lucasfilm story group as more and more projects get announced. They're just like, it's in one of these files somewhere. There's probably, they have a Google Doc somewhere and they're all editing it at the same time of,
Are you
fine.
serious?
No, I just, this is my image of the story group is they have a Google Drive and they're forever trying to find stuff in it. That would be how I would manage canon.
That's it. I don't know how else you could because you have to manage like so many things, and so you have to just be able to go, okay, here we are.
It's probably the Google Doc that's the links to the 500 other Google Docs where you like click on Jyn Erso and it takes you to her canon, cross-referenced with her dad's canon, and then through here.
It's probably
it's either that or it's the web of stuff on the wall and there's yarn connecting.
It's probably when Disney came to be, somebody probably downloaded Wikipedia as it was and then put it on their own server so that they could manage things that way. I'm betting that's what it is.
Oh yeah.
So, what is your favorite / least favorite character out of here?
My favorite character is Jyn Erso, forever and always. It was actually 3 years ago today that I first debuted my Jyn Erso cosplay. Facebook reminded me of that today.
So I guess, would a better question be top 5 favorite characters out of this one? Like rank them?
Jyn will always be first. Probably Cassian is second. I really love him. I love Diego Luna. I gotta give a shout out to Krennic though. I hate this guy because he's that guy that you want to hate because he's slimy, he's self-serving, he's trying to claw his way to the top. But Ben Mendelsohn sells it.
Yep. He does a great job. And he was he was in Far From Home, Spider-Man. Does a great job there too. Like the guy just is able to sell just the weirdest roles, I think. And this one's not that weird, but like in other movies that he's been in. But Mendelsohn does a fantastic job being the villain here, but like I love how Tarkin is able to like come in and just kind of take it and roll
Yeah.
with it. And like,
And at that point, you don't know if you're cheering for Krennic or not because you're like, he did take his project. That was me.
yeah, yeah.
You know,
I
what about
think
what
for
I'm up to?
me,
Three? I don't know. I can't rank the rest of them. There's too many of them, and I love them all.
I think it's like for me, I think it's your top three. So like Jen Erso, Cassian Andor. But then I gotta give it to K2. I just love how I love
K2 is
Alan
so
Tudyk.
much
And if you
fun.
haven't seen Doom Patrol season one, go watch Doom Patrol season one because he's in it. And as much as I love the rest of the cast, it kind of went downhill when Alan Tudyk had to leave. So that's my opinion. Stick to it.
My thing is, I just, whenever I see him as K2, and this isn't anything against K2 because I love K2 to death, is I'll like see him do something as K2, and then I'm like, he was also the chicken in Moana. So it's like if you've ever watched him do voiceover for Moana, it's hysterical because he's just in a booth making chicken noises, and then he looks at the camera and goes, I went to Juilliard for this, and then makes more chicken noises.
I'm gonna have to look that up now. Oh my god.
Brilliant. And I'm just like, thank you for being you. It is brilliant. The thing is, though, I don't know
Oh
if
my
I
god.
have a least favorite character. I have very strong feelings on Saw Gerrera, but most of them are from reading Rebel Rising, which is from Jin's perspective. And so
Okay.
you're with her when she gets dumped.
Okay.
So I love to hate some of the senators on the council. There's one of them, it's the guy that plays Anderson in Sherlock. So
Okay.
every time we watch it, I have to yell Anderson at the appropriate time.
I get you. Um. Well, yeah. I think that's all I have. I've grown to love this movie every time I watch it. I love it a little
Mhm.
bit more. Um. It's probably more like 4.25 stars for me.
Yes.
Um. It's grown from 3.5, so I'm gonna say that it's still growing.
Okay, my friend Missy just texted me because apparently she's watching the stream. Hello, Missy. And I got a text that
Hi.
says General Jackass, which is what she calls General Draven, who's also
Mhm.
like, I want to hate him, but he's played so perfectly and he fits into this movie so
He is.
well.
And
And I,
he has to be that person who like jumps on those things because like I was yelling at him and was like, "You don't want to do that though. Like that's a bad idea. Like you want to wait like 30 minutes to an hour at least see that he's like officially dead or whatever." But he's played so well.
and it explains so much of why Cassian is the way he is when he knows that
Yeah,
if he goes missing, I mean, it's the same thing as like the way Poe acts in The Force Awakens, because if you read the novel, you find out that if he goes missing, going to find that data chip, going to find Lor Santeca, the Resistance has an agreement they will not look for him because it's too dangerous to them.
yeah,
And I mean, it's the same thing. And if I haven't read the Hope Dies arc of the Star Wars comics yet, I have it, but it's somewhere in my backlog of comics I need to read. But there's a panel in it where it's General Draven talking to Leia about how Jyn Erso got to be the hero, and I'll always be the one who tried to stop her. And it's like, I can't
uh,
hate this character. And also, like,
I need to look at that. I'm working through the Star Wars comics. So same thing, but I need to find them.
and
Oh
also every
gosh.
time we do the readings, one of my best friends plays the role so we can sit and snark at each other during the show because we have way too much fun. But yeah, that's the problem is even the ones I'm supposed to hate, I love them. I feel sorry for them.
That's what war does to you.
It does. And I mean, even it's the ones you hate, it's a sort of love to hate kind of thing.
Yeah.
Because I mean, Krennic's cape. It's just,
So stylish.
and the fact that he just walks in and he's doing all this stuff and he's like, oh, it's Lyra back from the dead. And I'm just like, this man is done. This man is done with this entire family. And then you read Catalyst and you find out that they basically escaped from Coruscant under his nose, and you get why this man is done with this entire thing.
Oh.
And then somewhere at the point, we were talking about favorite scenes, and I forgot to mention this one. I don't know how, because I've talked about it in show notes I've done for like other plays. Is when he's on the top of the tower and he looks at Jin and he's just done at this point. He's like, why are people blowing up my shit? Why is this happening? And he looks at her and goes, who are you? Like, who is this? And she looks him right in the eye and says, you know who I am. It's not an answer that defers to who her father is. It's not an answer that defers to who anything else is. Her first answer is, you know who I am. And there's something really powerful about a young woman asserting her own identity. When Rey is asked that in Last Jedi, because she's at a very different point in her journey, Luke asks her, who are you? And she goes back into herself and says, the Resistance sent me. When asked that, Jin looks right in the eye and says, you know who I am.
That's a really good parallel between Jin and Rey. I really like that parallel. I hadn't kind of put that together. But yes, again, a good one. Because it's just like she knows who she is and she's seen Krennic so many times and she's like, I am the nightmare. Like, I don't care all of that.
This is the man who basically is in every one of her nightmares.
Yeah.
I mean, you even see when she falls asleep on the ship, I think it's right before Jeddah, she sees Krennic in her nightmare.
Yeah.
Not really nightmare, but her dream is she remembers where, this man, and then she sees him on Edu.
Yeah.
And then, confronting him again, it's the culmination of everything.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Rogue One, which is coming back into theaters if you're next to a lucky city. I am not.
I'm driving. My city just finally got announced, but I made plans with friends that live in another state. We're meeting in the middle and we're seeing Rogue One. It's
very
a big,
nice.
big plan. We're having it's going to be great. I actually caught it in theaters. It was the Disney Plus Day Star Wars movie last year. So I got to see it in theaters again. And I took my two siblings and I, my sister lives up in the Chicago suburbs. I live in Illinois. So my brother and I drove to the suburbs to meet her. And I treated everyone to going to see Rogue One because that way they'd all go see it with me. And so now my sister's like, oh, I've seen it with you once. I mean, if nobody else will go with you. And I'm like, what if I invite our friends? And she's like, okay, I'll meet them for a movie. So we're going to see a movie.
Very nice. Yeah, I looked on Fandango, and I set it to like 250 miles, and it's nowhere near me. So I'm just out of luck.
I mean,
but it is what it is.
Sounds bad, but if you haven't checked in a while, check again because they've just recently added more. At least they were saying, no showtimes announced near me, and then they finally just started putting them up. So
I'm gonna look right now.
I mean, your mileage may vary, but it's worth a try.
Rogue One re-release. Buy tickets. In theaters. Nope. Nowhere near me.
Aww.
Oh well.
Sorry, was hoping for you.
It is what it is. It's fine. Rachel, thank you so much for being here. This has been a blast.
Well, thank you so much for having me. I was so glad. Somebody pointed out your post to me, and I said, I can talk about Rogue One. Let's see what we can have fun with.
Yes, I really appreciate it because it was super last minute. And so yeah, this has been fun. Everybody, well, I'll let you plug your stuff. Tell them where they can find you and everything.
Hi. You can find me. I'm on the Followers of the Force podcast. We drop new episodes usually on Mondays, and we do some live streams sometimes on Saturday nights when we're not all running in 500 different directions. Usually we talk about Star Wars on Saturday nights. Every now and then we just talk about life for a while, or true crime podcasts. That's happened before too. We also have a sister show, which is Followers of the Multiverse, which is about Marvel movies. If you've ever wanted to listen to me, who doesn't watch Spider-Man movies, react to watching each of the Spider-Man movies for the first time, we did a run up to No Way Home. And they went, you know, it'd be funny. You know, it's good podcasting. Rachel's never seen a Spider-Man movie. Let's make her watch them all. So we did. And it led up to, I saw my first Marvel movie in a theater with No Way Home. So that's something. It's good podcasting if you want to hear me freak out about the idea of spiders being dropped on me. And if you just want to follow me rambling, I am on Twitter at Built on Stardust, and I'm on Instagram as Stardust Rebel. I am also one of the founders of the What Choice fundraiser for reproductive choice, if you want to check that out. And again, thank you so much for having me.
Sorry, I'm writing down things for Clay to do. Clay, I love you. I promise. Yes, please check out What Choice, y'all. It will be linked in the description box below, along with all of Rachel's Twitters and podcasts. So very, very important though to check out that fundraiser. And make sure to vote in November. 2 years. Do it. Do it, y'all.
Vote in November. Please check your state. If you are a state that has no their primary yet, please vote in your primary. Local elections are important. Vote in your local elections. Yes. I work with the League of Women Voters. Can you tell? If you don't know how to register to vote, you can find out online or contact your local league. They'll be able to help you.
Yes, absolutely. Because you change things at your local level and then your state level and then your national level. So do it, y'all. Because local elections are some of the least voted in ones. So
and some of the most important.
Yes, most important, least voted in. So do register to vote if you're not registered, and go vote in November. Y'all, you can find me on Twitter and Instagram. It's at Slice of Katie. This show you can find on Twitter. It's at Star Wars Alliance without the A and the Wars. Very important. Don't forget it. My other show is on the Geek Ultimate Alliance Podcast Network. It's at SliceFM1 on Twitter. Yes, I'm still trying to get into that Twitter account. Yes, I suck at promoting my own shit. I will probably forget to promote this show tomorrow when it drops on podcast feeds. I'm terrible. You try to avoid social media because it's good for your health, but then you have to do all these things on social media to promote your shit. So.
It's okay. I've had stuff sitting on my hard drive that's episodes we recorded back around Christmas time. It's fine. It's all fine. It's fine.
So again, I will have all of Rachel's stuff linked down below. And Rachel, do you watch Only Murders in the Building?
I do not. I want to. I just haven't had a chance yet.
Well, then I'm going to let you go, actually, and I'm just going to quickly talk about the Only Murders in the Building season 2 finale, because, oh my gosh, that was hilarious and shocking. So, Rachel, I highly encourage Only Murders in the Building. It is great.
I will. I've seen it. I used to be a true crime podcaster, so I've seen it recommended. But I will check that out. Yes. Thank you so much for having me.
Yes, thank you so much again, and y'all make sure you check her out. Okay. Post-credit time. Only Murders in the Building, season 2, finale. Oh my gosh, I wish Matt was in here to talk about this with me because I need somebody else to talk about this with me. Oh my gosh. Okay, so spoiler alert. If you do not want Only Murders in the Building, season 2 spoiled for you, then move along, please. And come back because it's Only Murders in the Building season 2. And it is a show to watch. Anyways, spoilers in 3, 2, 1. Oh my gosh, I cannot believe it was Becky or Poppy, whatever you want to call her. That was shocking to me. I need to know how much exploring she actually did into the Arconia, because how did she know about secret passages? How did she kind of figure out she's building, because so she was dating Krebs. I thought from last week's episode that Krebs was dating Sam. And then you're like, okay, that's a little weird. Okay, it's fine. It's totally fine. But no, it's actually Becky, aka Poppy, who was dating Krebs. That's like mind blowing. And it's like, okay, you really thought that, oh, I should write down an ad time for Clay so he doesn't kill me. Okay, 136 post credit, 139, 39. Katie, oops. Um, so anyways, where was I? So Krebs was like, I'm dating the smartest woman in the room. Like, she is great. All is not okay in Oklahoma. And you're like, okay, wait, how does that compute? I guess like he was just so infatuated with the fact that a woman was attracted to him. And yes, Becky was super smart and was able to kind of like pull all these things together. But like, she's not Cinda, and Cinda was like manipulative and planned all these things and everything. But then you find out Cinda didn't even know that Poppy was Becky, and you're like, oh, okay, Cinda manipulated all these things. It's like, oh, okay. So then they were able to kind of connect all of the dots with, and I see somebody just hopped on the feed. I'm doing a post-credit scene for Only Murders in the Building, season 2 finale. So if you don't want spoilers, I suggest other places, but I appreciate you being here. Um, so so they were able to kind of rope everyone in together, Alice and Cinda, to kind of trap Becky into admitting it because they only had so much evidence, and the knife had the DNA for Becky, so that was kind of like your smoking gun, but you still wanted like the full confession. Um, and it was just kind of, it was so shocking. It doesn't it doesn't give you the emotional resonance that Only Murders in the Building season one's finale does, but it's still such a good reveal, and I love how they called it a killer reveal party, where it's the reveal of the killer of Bunny, but also a killer party, and it's Steve Martin is so great. Martin Short did an incredible job on this, but Selena Gomez always kills it with the deadpan humor and the fact that they were able to just kind of flip the switch and go from Cinda to Alice and then to Becky. It was just super impressive. Um, and getting her trapped. Like, I can't believe Cinda went for it. I guess. Like, I would love to see like expanded behind the scenes stuff on Cinda, and the Only Merchant Building podcast kind of wrap it all together and kind of figure that out and make the plan happen. Awesome. But then I guess we get to the end. So Becky's arrested and everything. Everything's all good. Mabel is finally renovating her apartment and has painted over the mural that she did in season 1 of Only Murders in the Building. And now you think about it, and season 1 and season 2 take place very close together because it's basically like they take place back to back. So it's maybe over the span of a couple months, couple weeks, if that. Um, and so going forward, we know it's been renewed for a season 3, and then we get a glimpse into what season 3 is going to be. Oliver has been pulled in to direct a Broadway play, which will be his first in several years. And Charles has been de-dimensioned for his Brazos sequel show. And everybody's life is going great. That's where everybody is. And then a year later, we find out who the star of Oliver's play is, and it's a character played by Paul Rudd. It is not like Amy, what's her face? I don't even care to look it up because she's terrible. So Amy was playing Amy. Paul Rudd is not playing Paul Rudd. So different universe. Obviously, well, because otherwise then Charles would be Steve Martin. I don't know. Whatever. So Paul Rudd is playing a different character, and Paul Rudd's character and Charles don't get along. Charles is also starring in this Broadway play, and I guess it was because Oliver was like, "Oh yeah, you're my friend. I'll give you the opportunity to be in this play." And then, bam! Charles and the character Paul Rudd. We're just gonna call Charles and Paul, even though Paul is not Paul. Anyways, um, so Paul and Charles don't get along, and apparently Paul did something to some woman, girl, person. We are not given a name by Charles, and Charles is like, I can still let this loose, blah, 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 blah. And the guy had been really nervous before going on stage. And so Charles and Paul split up and they do like the whole break a leg, good luck. Good luck is a curse in stage language. And it's Charles, that's a good one. But then we go to drop the play, and Oliver is sitting in oh my gosh, is sitting in the audience. Why did I forget the word audience? He's sitting in the audience along with Charles's girlfriend, which was the makeup artist from the Brazo show. He's also sitting with Lucy, and then Mabel comes in, and Mabel's wearing this gorgeous evening dress. Oh my gosh, Selena's just like, she's beautiful. Anyways, Selena comes in and is like, I'm so proud of you. You did a fantastic job. And then is like, I'm so thankful we've been a year without murder. And then the curtain rises. Paul comes out and gives his opening lines and then stutters. And at first you're like, oh, stage fright. My first reaction was, oh, he's dying. And yeah, he dies. And Charles comes out and Paul's got blood raining from his mouth and everything. So yeah, he's dead. He's been poisoned. Best bet. Um, And so, yeah, that kind of leads us to where season 3 is going to go. And now I was relatively spoiled, not like entirely. I got on Twitter and saw that Paul Rudd had been cast in season 3 of Only Murders in the Building, and was like, oh crap! But then managed to stay off Twitter most of the day, so I never found out what role he was actually going to be in. I imagine you could kind of take season 3 storyline in two ways. You could choose to do like some backstory and kind of explore the Charles Paul relationship. But with Paul being so busy and so much star power, you could also choose to just go, okay, we're gonna go straight from this. But I don't think that's going to happen because with the way the story played out in the ending of the episode, it makes sense to bring Paul in for longer periods of time to kind of show what's happening, show the relationship with him and his killer. Though really, right now, it looks like Charles. Charles, if you killed him, I'd be super mad. Steve Martin can't go anywhere, y'all. Um, anyways, so that is a little bit of a roundup on Only Murders in the Building season 2. I know Clay and I did a post for it last week. So I kind of wanted to continue it, especially after some of the theories that he and I had, and was like, oh, I can't wait to see how Cinda's revealed. Now it's completely opposite direction. Though I am curious how Alice knew with the puzzle she handed Mabel, how did she know that it was related to All Is Not Okay in Oklahoma? I need to know this. I hope Cara Delevingne comes back for season 3. I hope she and Mabel are able to like continue a relationship and everything because I kind of actually really enjoyed Alice. I a lot of people have problems with the roles that Cara plays, but I really do enjoy her as an actress. So here's to hoping. But with that, y'all, I want to wish everyone a great day or night, whatever time of day you are listening or watching, and we will see y'all next time. May the force be with you.